Hey, good morning. This is the Fort Worth Playboy, and this is the Fort Worth Playboy question of the day. And today's question is, hey, and you can submit these too because we have a morning show, and Bunny and I have a morning hustle on Thursday mornings at 7 a.m. So if you have a question, by all means, submit it. I won't be able to get to it on this. This is a very singular, this is a simple, single, what would you say, single issue show today. Should run around 10 to 15 minutes at best. But I keep getting the same questions, the same common questions, and I have over the last few years. And so I think it's time to start addressing the most common, normal questions that way that guys have. That way we can kind of have a library and it's easier to respond, especially like on Twitter, because I'll see the same questions on Twitter, and can give you a better explanation than I can simply typing it every time I can at least refer to this. So the question of the day is, to meet a lot of women, where would be the best place to move to? So I get this under two situations. The guy has just graduated college. He can become or go anywhere he wants to. And he wants to he wants to have this to be a large part of his life. A lot of times if a guy's like been in a bad environment, he wants a lot of opportunity. And the second group I get tends to be gentlemen who have divorced later in life. Kids are grown, or at least, they're in college themselves. And he has the flexibility to really move anywhere he wants. He'll be late 30s, 40s, 50s. And he can move anywhere he wants and kind of like pick it up because there's nothing in the suburbs. I mean, it's like anti-sexual. And a lot of guys are like, I got to get out of here. And there's nothing to keep them there. And for younger guys, there's nothing holding them down. And they want to be in an environment where it's easier. Again, you can run game and you can have a great sex life just about anywhere. I would never knock, something, but it's harder. You want to make life easier for yourself. It's going to be harder if you're out in the country. It's going to be harder if you're on an offshore oil rig 2 weeks out of a month. It's going to be harder if you're a long haul trucker. So there's all kinds of things that you can do as far as like environment that will help you. And I'm going to answer this question in two parts. One is, what kind of environment should you look for? And the second is like 2 or 3 suggestions of like places that actually are, who I recommend for people if they're really looking for womanizing to be a big part of their life. You should probably put yourself in that environment, at least temporary. Again, all of this stuff, you don't have to move there forever. This is one of those things you go like, I want to become really good at some sport. Let's say you want to ski. So you move to a mountain town for like 2 to 5 years. You just focus in on this one thing. And you can do the same thing with this. You can move to an environment that is ideal, and it makes it easier to meet a lot of women in a short amount of time and facilitates things. But you don't have to stay there forever. I mean, if you're a country guy, you're a country guy. You meet a girl, you meet 1,000 women, you pick one, and when you get married, you move back to flexibility. None of this is permanent. But what you're looking for, and this is a reason that this question came up, is a guy reached out to me. He was out and about, and he's one of the guys that, I interact with a lot. He said, grandparents gave us a night off. So I took the wife to a hotel in Cherry Creek, which is south side of Denver. This is like an entertainment district. And I'm laughing because of the amount of bars, restaurants, and condos in such a small area. A single dude could absolutely be slaying it here. Hotel bar, bounce to a fun restaurant, bounce to a condo, and close. You don't even have to walk over a half mile. And so that's the type of environment I described. And like where I live on the 4th floor. I get into an elevator, and there's a restaurant, there's actually 4 restaurants right below my apartment. and everything is walkable. It makes things so much easier because, again, you can have your first venue, you meet up, and they know you because you tend to use it all the time. You can bounce to the second, and if things are going well, hey, do you want to come meet my midget? I own a midget, and you can come over to the apartment. And like Bunny said, well, where's your apartment? I said, do you see that light up there? And she was like, yeah. She goes, okay. That's, you want things to be close. Again, when you're moving a girl back to the final destination so you can close, ideally, it's within 2 to 5 minutes walking. You want to avoid having to get into your car and drive. You really want to avoid her getting into her car and you getting into your car and you guys having to meet at a third location. That's bad. So everything we're doing, we're talking about ideal. Everything that we describe can be done, and it can be done well, but we want to stack the deck in our favor. You want to be in an environment where you close, everything's within walking distance. Entertainment, bars, clubs, restaurants, your apartment or your house, all of this is doable, but you want everything in a small area. Mostly larger cities will have these walkable areas, and this is ideal. Again, if you get a house like 5 minutes nearby, that's fine too. Everybody has different needs. I'm trying to describe the best case scenario that can help you meet a lot of women in a short amount of time. Again, you want to be one in a city because there are more women. If you're sitting in the middle of the city, and this Fort Worth is not a big city, but it's not a small city either. We have like 1 million people. Again, in between Dallas and here, it's pretty big. Just sitting in a city, let's say even as small as like Boise, Idaho, or Salt Lake City, Utah. These are like medium-sized cities. You will never run out of women. There will always be more women within a 5-mile radius that would gladly fuck you today than you could ever possibly get to. That's the deal. That's the real deal. There's always girls coming and going. That's a good thing about vibrant cities. There's always new talent coming in and the old talent's heading out. There's churn. You can see it on the apps. There's always going to be churn where you're at. So there's always new talent coming in. It's not the same. That's one of the downsides of being in a small town. You've banged every girl that's available. Now they're all married or gaining weight or have kids. All of it. So you want to be in an environment where there's a lot of women, cities. There's turnover, so you can meet new girls, and that the logistics work in your favor. There's an average guy with some game could truly fuck himself to death in a city if he knows what he's doing. If he just knows the basics and starts running the same program over and over, he really can. Whereas it's going to be harder if you're in the suburbs, and there's always drive time and there's always a lag time, and you got to bring her back to your place. Or worst case scenario, you have to go back to her place. Guys always go, well, I don't want him to know where I live, but those are mental issues that I can't really address. But why do I say bring the girl back to your place? Because you have control of the environment. It's home. What do they call it? Home field advantage. You're not going to have a roommate, walking in on you. You know that there's not going to be dogs shitting on the floor. There's not going to be like kids knocking on your door. You have control of your environment. And if you go to her place, you don't have any control. You could do this entire night and just get blown out in the driveway because, her oldest son is already just got a hope from a date himself. So now you can't go in. So there's all kinds of negatives. So always have control of your environment all the way to the close to where you're putting her in the Uber and sending her home. But that's the real deal. A positive, supportive environment will help your game, and you'll meet more women in less time. And then you'll get a system, and then it'll be like a factory, a sex factory that actually goes through your bedroom every day. And then guys will ask me, and it's a very common question from some very smart men, what cities do I suggest? And I have always suggested a city with a large university and tends to be the capital. You're going to have intelligent money, and it's always turning over, especially for the younger guys. If you're just getting out of college, you need to. I've always said Austin. Austin has always been my number one pick. Recently, and I only mean like within the last 6 months, I've changed that a bit to like Madison, Wisconsin. If you don't like the cold, I get it. But Austin, you're also like walking on the sun 4 months out of the year. So Texas is hot. But Austin has been dealing with like it's become more expensive. There's a lot of so it's not like number one with a bullet, like I always say in the past, but it is still a good town. And you will never run out of women. You'll never run out of attractive women. It's just so many young, smart, attractive people. And there's so much to do, and everything is in one place. It's really hard to beat. Madison, Wisconsin is a capital. It's very Midwest, very nice. People are friendly. And again, it's a large university. If you really want to know what to do, become a bartender, lift weights, and be close to a college campus. And it's very hard to go wrong. And ideally, like even like a place like Lincoln, Nebraska, which again is the University of Nebraska, it's a capital. There's all kinds of positives. So that's what you're looking for. You know, if you're talking about ideal, any of this can be done in almost any major city. People do it all the time. And I always kind of like leave New York City, Miami, and LA out of like because guys that end up there, they know what they're doing. New York City, there's trade-offs. Miami is extremely, competitive. Everybody's good looking. Everybody has money. If you land there, you better know what you're doing. And LA is just a rough. It's big. There's a lot of people, but if you're not on the inside, you're not going to have a lot of luck. I mean, it's very established. Even like unattractive women that grow up in LA move to like Washington, D.C. because they have no hope of really having a great, outcome because of the competitiveness of the environment. So if you're just a regular dude and you want to get really good at game, you want to put yourself in an environment that's conducive to you meeting a lot of women and can do it logistically and have good logistics because it'll speed things up. And then the more experience you get, the better. So that's the real deal. And then you want to see, like, if you do have the opportunity to move to a city or a town, you want younger, academic, money, politics, everything in one place. Even if you're not invested or interested in any of that, it's the quality of the people that it draws in. And then, you're on your way. So you have a better pool of women to pull from. So that is my suggestion on the question of the day. And if you like this video or if you like this topic, Basic Training 1 and 2, which is my books, you can find them at Fort Worth Playboy at gumroad.com. And I'll leave a link below. Basic Training 1 and 2, 50 tips in each book that are just like this. Like, how do you choose a town? How do you find a good environment? What is the best environment? What should my apartment look like? Or like, what should my bedroom look like? All kinds of like very basic training to help you lay down a foundation to attract more women, better looking women, and have more certainty with these women. And everybody has a much better time. There's no downside. And again, I put the books Basic Training 1 and 2 together because just like you go into the military, you go to basic training. If you're going to play baseball, you go to spring training. You go to football 2-a-days. You're always laying down a foundation. If you join a gym or if you go into the gym, you learn the 3 basic lifts the first week. You need to lay down for any endeavor, including game, a solid foundation that you can build off of. Without the fundamentals, without a good, solid foundation, everything crumbles and you're confused and things don't work like they should. So basic training 1 and 2, and I'll leave a link below, is what I recommend. If you're new or intermediate and getting better at game, those 2 books can help you right away. It's in a bundle. Buy both at one time. You'll save yourself having to make a second purchase. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll be back tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. Have a great day.